Yes, Sir Hairless here. Today we have another new band to the channel, a rock band formed in 1994 in Arkansas by Amy Lee and Ben Moody. Their name? Evanescence, which is funny because the word by definition means vanishing or disappearing. Well, they certainly did not vanish from anywhere because this song, My Immortal, has over 1 billion views on YouTube. It's also interesting how Immortal is almost the opposite of disappearing. Anyway, I'd never heard of this song or this band before until it appeared on one of our polls over on Patreon. It narrowly missed out on winning by just a few votes, but I did another poll for songs that narrowly missed out, giving them a second chance, and it won that one. So here we are. That's about it. That's where I am with this song, with this artist. I know nothing more. I did check the lyrics, which are on screen now for you to read, so feel free to pause. If we're to take them literally, then it seems to be about a ghost or a spirit, unless of course it's metaphorical. Okay, let's get straight into it.
I'm so tired of being here, suppressed by all my childish fears. And if you have to leave, I wish that you would just leave. Your presence still lingers here, and it won't leave me alone. These wounds won't seem to heal. This pain is just too real.
Sorry, impulse pause. I've had some copyright scares recently, and little pauses like this help with copyright. If we play the song or video just continuously all the way through, then it can be viewed as a listening alternative to the original, and my video can get taken down. So I will carry on. But yeah, fountains. I bet this was filmed in Spain. I've just come back last week from a city in Spain, and I was so pleasantly surprised at all the fountains everywhere. Not only is it easily accessible drinking water, I mean, she's not drinking, she is walking around in them, it seems, but they just look nice as well. Anyway, let's carry on.
There's just too much that time cannot erase. When you cried, I'd wipe away all of your tears. When you'd scream, I'd fight away all of your fears. And I held your hand through all of these years, but you still
Yeah, this is not what I expected. I kind of expected something a little bit heavier. I don't know why. Maybe I'm making subconscious connections with Nightwish. Maybe I thought they were a bit more of a metal band, although I did literally Google them before. And I said in the introduction, it says they're a rock band, very calming. And of course, that's going to be due to a lot of the musical choices, the way she sings. If this is your first time watching this channel, this is where I pause and go over some of what we've just heard, go into the music a little bit. If you don't want to hear my thoughts or analysis, go to the timestamp. There are quite a few things I'd like to talk about. I don't think I have the time to talk about them all, so I'll try and go through them one by one, not necessarily chronologically. I want to start with Amy Lee's voice. Very soft at the beginning, airy. The air is really apparent.
Suppressed by all my childish.
It almost adds another layer to the texture. It's that type of timbre that's created through this airy voice, fairly low down in her register as well.
And it won't leave me alone.
As she moves up, we had elements of a very rapid vibrato coming through, but then here, this is the first time that we hear this new type of voice. It quite shocked me, actually. I just wasn't expecting her voice to sound like this.
These wounds won't seem to heal.
She's, of course, growing into the ends of the phrases, these mini crescendos, but it's much more of a type voice than I was expecting. It's a voice, I think, that could be suited quite well to a musical theatre or perhaps more modern musical theatre. The word that comes to mind for me is piercing. And I'm a little bit cautious of saying that because I think often we can associate piercing with bad things. It has negative connotations. I don't mean it in that way. I really like her voice. There's power to it that we can certainly hear, even if this isn't necessarily the most powerful song.
Pain is just too real. There's just too much that time cannot.
But the melody, how it's constructed, it really complements this way of singing. That phrase we just heard, let's listen again. How many times does the note change?
Pain is just too real.
There's one.
There's just too much that time cannot erase.
And there's another note. So all of that, we've only heard 3 notes, mostly just, and that sits perfectly in her sweet part of her range, where we're starting to get that chest come through as she's moving up, this really powerful blended sound. So I like what I'm seeing with her voice so far. Very nice with the softer airy sound we saw at the start. Here we've got more power. I'm expecting more power later on in the song. Typically songs tend to grow, although considering the subject matter of this one, maybe not. I guess we'll find out. The second thing, the instrumentation, the musical core. If this is your first time watching my channel, I'll let you know that I believe harmony is really the most important thing when it comes to music. The notes you choose to use, the chords, the order in which they come, are things mostly major or minor? Do you have diminished chords, dissonances? These are what really shape the overall sentiment of the song. And then comes the instrumentation. We've had a lot of much more rapid arpeggios now towards the second half of what we've heard so far.
All these years, but you still.
In the piano. What else do we get? The cello, the low strings, long sustained notes. It creates this really nice contrast, a really thick sound. Of course, the vocal harmony, subtle, repeating notes that you might not expect to be repeated, causing dissonance, which then resolves as it moves back in line with the melody.
All these years, but you still.
So overall, I like how this song is constructed. Interestingly, well, maybe not interestingly, but we have no percussion. There are no drums, nothing to really give a beat, a sense of regimented rhythmic progression. But that's where the piano comes in with its intense arpeggiated runs. Cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha.
Me alone, these wounds won't seem to.
The beat, this song is in common time, 4 beats per bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. These rapid piano lines
These wounds won't seem to heal.
are really the most important rhythmic part here that are keeping the song moving. Speaking about the piano, and this is probably the last thing I'll talk about before we carry on, I want to go back to the introduction. Why? Well, it's the first thing we hear. The first opening of our eyes, of our ears into this song, into this bit of music. So it's very important. It's very nice. It's very simple. Nice little extra dissonant note there. Those 2 phrases, there are just a few things I'd like to talk about them. It will be easier to show you on a keyboard. So what I'll do is after I finish recording this reaction, I'll head on over to the piano, film it and insert it now. The first thing is how there's a mix of unison and harmony notes. We have 10 fingers to play the piano with. So in theory, we can have 10 notes at any one time. They're choosing just to play 2 notes though. 1 note at a time in the right hand, 1 note at a time in the left hand. Despite this, we still have many cases of unison. And then in the next phrase. The other thing I like is the sustained left hand, which contrasts the momentum or motion in the right hand. The left hand, the notes fade out. That's how the piano works, and maybe because I've been thinking about the lyrics of a ghost, but it's got me thinking about life versus death. Death being the fading out of the left hand, with the right hand continuing to move and live. Also within the right hand we have sustained versus prolonged. And in the video itself we can particularly hear this E sustaining through whilst the arpeggio continues. With these sustained notes, as we know, they fade out gradually, so they become less prominent, which means that any dissonance we get against them is also less dissonant. In the second half of the phrase, we get this change. This note here, this B, clashes with this A. It's slightly less prominent because of the sustained, rather than if we had. That's a bit more obvious. All right, let's carry on. Very cool video as well. I like when videos are done in black and white, such as Disturbed Sound of Silence, for example. Quite poignant.
You used to captivate me by your resonating light. Now I'm bound by the life you left behind. Your face, it haunts my once pleasant dreams. Your voice, it chased away all the sanity in me. These wounds won't seem to heal. This pain is just too real. There's just too much that time cannot erase. When you cried, I'd wipe away all of your tears. When you scream, I'd fight away all of your fears. And I held your hand through all of these years, but you still
Oh, here's a changed section. Some significant harmonic changes we've not heard yet. Just thinking about the past, how long's that been? A minute and a half that we've just heard, particularly about the song's structure, because the structure of a song, again, defines it. We can think of it as a linear trajectory, like a story almost. Start moving through as the story progresses and then finishing with the end. And where I paused, we now have a change in the structure. This is unknown territory for me as a new listener, but the past minute or so that we've just listened to was not new. It's the same musical ideas we've had before. Is this a good or a bad thing? There's no right answer. It just depends on the song. For a calmer song like this, and I will be using the word calm, I think it's definitely a good thing. Despite the song's lyrics, which, again, as I said in the introduction, if they're to be taken literally about a ghost or a spirit, or even metaphorically, I suppose, they're a little bit dark. We could perceive them as quite dark. I'm looking at the lyrics again, actually, and objectively, they are not necessarily the most positive. Your face, it haunts my once pleasant dreams. Your voice chased away all the sanity in me. These wounds won't seem to heal. The pain is just too real. But though you're still with me, I've been alone all along. These objectively are not positive things. Yet the music, it's soothing, of course, due to how it's constructed, the way she's singing, all that kind of stuff, but also because there aren't too many structural changes. If we were changing constantly between musical ideas, then there'll suddenly be a key change, then a rhythmic change. I don't think it would allow us as listeners to really feel, grow. What's the word I'm looking for here? Become part of the song. With calm music, when we listen to it, you know, it's more natural to sit and listen, as opposed to something super energetic like heavy drum and bass or death metal. As a first-time listener, I'm familiar with this piano motif now because the song opened up with it. We've heard it multiple times throughout, and the differences that we do here are subtle. The string is now more prominent and they are causing added dissonance. Through that suspension there. What do I mean by suspension? Well, this is what we're hearing in those strings that are causing dissonance. The chord that we finish on, though, is this. C sharp minor. Minor being sad, so fundamentally the music does have sad undertones. As we can see, the first note I played in the string is not part of this chord. We can think of it as it doesn't belong. It causes dissonance. It's suspending through and then it resolves down. For the hawk-eyed among you, you would have noticed that having that suspended note in there actually transforms the chord to an A major chord, with major being happy. Well, the reason I don't think of it like that, and the reason I say it causes dissonance, is because we have to listen to the piano part underneath. The piano part is playing that arpeggio from the introduction. Up the octave, but what does that chord outline? C sharp minor. So having this other note in there is causing this direct clash. We're only hearing two chords though in this instrumental interlude. We're just alternating between A major and C sharp minor. We only need to change one note between these two chords. It's a simple change, and considering the calm nature of this song, how things shouldn't be overcomplicated and overstimulating, I think that's a really smart musical decision. Keeping the chord changes and therefore the harmony changes that we do get very simple, not too overbearing for us. If you enjoy these videos or find them helpful, please consider supporting me. Patreon has a bunch of exclusive benefits, behind the scenes videos, additional reaction content, Q&A videos, and more. For a one-time donation, you can donate me a hot chocolate at the Buy Me a Coffee link, or become a YouTube member for these groovy emojis and membership badges. And a huge thank you to these lovely people on the screen now. You'll notice though that here we do get different chords.
All the sanity in me.
There.
These wounds won't seem to heal. This pain is just too.
Different chords, kind of. Again, we're just switching back and forth between two chords. The chords this time, well, it's still C sharp minor, but instead of moving to A major and back like we were before, now we're moving to F sharp minor and back. Still not the most complex of changes. To change implies you need more than one chord, so we have two, the bare minimum. And there's still one common note between all the chords. This one here, it's in all the chords we've heard. That's for the majority of the song, at least from what we've heard so far. We do then get more chord changes for this section.
Race when you cried, I'd wipe away all of your tears.
Again, not the most complicated, but there are now more different chords. So because the song has been setting us up by just changing between two chords, when we do get more chords, even though it's not the most groundbreaking thing, it's much more impactful. And I think it almost adds a climactic element to the music in ways. Okay, we're speaking of changes. Where we paused was a significant change, it looked like. So we'll carry on from here until the end. There's about 1.5 to 2 minutes left.
All of me, I've tried so hard to tell myself that you're gone. But though you're still with me, I've been alone all the
Sorry, why my face is a bit like, it's this really high tinny sound. That has now resolved to the closing chord, but that tinny sound was, and then resolving. I was thinking it was not going to resolve and we'd finish with this kind of permanent, unending, high-pitched dissonance. That last section, I can safely say, I was not expecting the drums to come in. Even earlier on, I was saying, oh, there's no percussion. When they did come in, that was kind of more the vibe I was expecting, especially when we see, I guess this is Ben Moody. Very classic, noughties, hard rock type of look.
hard to tell myself that you're gone.
obvious changes here. I don't really need to go into them. So at this moment in time, the comfort of the calmness that I was mentioning earlier has now kind of gone. I'm suddenly a bit more engaged, wondering what's going to happen. There's a tiny bit of discomfort that comes with the unknown, uncertainty. And then having these new, harder instruments, electric guitar, you can start doing power chords. The drums add an obvious element to the music. There, the harshness that comes with that, not only in terms of the type of sound, but also the harmony. It's adding extra dissonance in there. The guitar now really helping to keep things moving, stressing the strong beats. I liked as well how on the piano, the mood has not changed. He's still there, sad, slumped over. That same repeating piano motif, we're still hearing it despite everything else going on. And the rock band disappear again. We revert back to the calmness of everything, but the texture is still thicker. There's more sounds, more vocal harmonies. The harmonies are now moving more than they were before. Same with the strings. Piano moves up the octave. It's these little things to build upon the previous ideas we've heard before, make them a tiny bit different whilst capturing the overall essence. I nearly said the overall evanescence there. I think that's it from me. Final thing, I haven't really talked about her outfit. The very first thing we see. Interesting. I was wondering, are these supposed to be bandages, the same as on her hands? To signify pain of sorts, or is it a fashion thing? If you know, let me know. Otherwise, I think I'll leave that one there. I really enjoyed that. I did really enjoy it. I didn't know what to expect. Definitely calmer for the most part than I thought. Many repeated ideas, but they're nice ideas, such as the piano motif we're introduced to straight away. No crazy harmonic changes. Songs don't need that. Well, depends on the type of the song, but definitely not for a song like this. I think it's very well constructed. I like her voice. Well written. Meaningful lyrics. Enough said from me. Comment down below other songs you'd like to see me do in the future, and thank you very much for watching. Would appreciate a like and a subscribe, and I will see you next time.